I don't want y'all to get frightened. This talk has been weighed, measured, and screened. So I just want you to know it's okay. Now, since you don't have a scorecard to see about the players and everything, I want to remind you that Dad went to Howard College, which was the forerunner of this beautiful, magnificent campus. My daughter and I went over to look at it today, and we were blown away. It is beautiful and big, and it scared me. I thought, no. Now, as already been mentioned, my dad had 2 boys, and I'm the youngest one. The oldest boy is William Henry Bancroft, Jr. I'm 82 and he's 87. Now, he's the one who needs to be up here because he's the Howard phenom. He played 2 years of defensive safety for Howard College at the weight of 140 pounds. And he also came back as a professor in nuclear physics. I'm glad some of you didn't take the course because you might be throwing tomatoes right now. My job today is to tell you about my dad, who was obviously a fierce athlete in football and baseball, and I didn't even know he played basketball. You know, we're not tall people. And I saw all those guys out there, the basketball folks, and I thought, Lord have mercy. I don't even want to stand close to none of them. I never got to see my dad play, obviously. But I saw a picture of him running around against Auburn, his hair flying, and he didn't have on a football helmet. Coach, he wouldn't play now, would he? And I asked him, I said, Dad, where's your helmet? When I was looking at the picture. He said, those things did not give you much protection. So I wouldn't wear one. Said all it would do is keep you from skinning your head, and said mine never would fit. So he didn't play with a helmet. Now, to get the picture, you need to know that our family had a special relationship with Howard College. At one time, it looked like we furnished half the student body. And a bunch of them are here tonight. There was, when my brother came, my dad came with my mother. They were not married at the time, but my mother was born of 9 kids, and literally 5 of them attended Howard College. Now, my dad's side, 3 pre-med student doctors attended Howard College. Dad was a pre-med. It was the athletes in the family all went to Howard. Was my dad, Billy, my brother, Ben's out here, and Ray Davis, another in-law. I have to admit that this was my first visit to Samford, and I told you I was blown away about it. The beauty and magnificence of your campus is almost overwhelming when you compare it to the memories of the stately old buildings of Howard College, full of memories of past gone days. Betsy, you know what I'm talking about. She's here. I personally remember Howard College as our neighborhood after-school playground. We kids would race home from Barrett Elementary School to Howard campus to play football, baseball, where the big boys played, and we pretend we were one of them. They were giants to us, and in our imaginations, we were just as big as they were. Speaking of giants, all the sports now are played by giants. I mean, y'all saw me out there. However, when we go back in time and look at the heroes of the past, my dad was 5'5" and weighed 150 pounds. My brother was 5'7". He was the tallest one of us, and he weighed 140 pounds. 140 pounds when he started at defensive safety. My cousin Ben Bancroft, Ben, wave your hand right there, was the biggest of the Bancroft athletes and was only 6 feet and weighed 180 pounds. He got up to 190 and he got embarrassed, so he lost some weight. Ben played middle guard for Howard on the same team with Billy, and he was good. Now, he made the all-Southern team. Now he looked like a real bulldog. Back in those days, they didn't wear face masks, so his nose was always bloody and masked in and pug. So he was quite, he could really ring your bell if you ran his way. Now, you may have heard of a guy by the name of Bobby Bowden. Anybody remember him? Huh? Y'all know him? Bobby, a little All-American quarterback, he was on the same team as the guys I'm talking about. He was not much bigger than Billy the time he played. Now, I will claim he is a family member because he grew up in our Howard College neighborhood and played on the same kid team of YMCA that my daddy coached after he returned from World War II. Now, that was the East Lake Indians that had these same guys playing, and they won the Birmingham YMCA championship. Isn't that amazing? A Hall of Fame coach coaching the YMCA team. But he had to coach because he didn't have a job at the time. Incidentally, that team won the championship. However, I'm told that now I look a lot like my daddy. They say if you trim off my beard and take off about 40 pounds right here, you have a pretty good visual of what my dad looked like. In fact, I would go down the streets of Birmingham, and people from all sides of things would come up and say, "Billy, you hadn't changed a bit." And I said, "You're right." Now, no good story goes without drama and romance. Okay? I got a good one. My mother, Claudie Mae Hoover Bancroft, was my dad's senior sponsor, and she was Howard College homecoming queen in the first football game ever played on Legion Field. Y'all saw that in the thing. Now, the college had made a float that looked like a football, and they drug it out on the 50-yard line. They opened the door, and out come the balloons, and this beautiful woman, my mother, the homecoming queen of Howard College, at the first game there. Now, if you want to know our family dynamics, Mother was always Dad's queen in residence. And Buddy, if you did not mind the queen, you were reminded in a hurry by my father. Now, that don't picture true romance. I'm not standing here. Now, I want to lift up something else. They've already talked about the fact that Dad kicked the first field goal at Legion Field. Now, guys, he did a drop kick. They had a little round football that they used to do, and Dad tried to teach me how to do it, and I never did make it. Now, I want to remind you that every sports hero who reaches this level of acclaim, there's an unseen quality that needs to be talked about. I believe that the true measure of a man is not the size of his body or the number of trophies in his house, but rather it's the size of his heart. and the nature of his soul. I was amazed at the kind of things you were telling us about athletes and everybody here. Dad was surely a true champion. He definitely had a winning spirit. Dad genuinely loved people no matter the color of your skin or which side of the tracks you came from. No matter how God made you, Dad could also read you like a book. When the time was right, he would translate his love into a life lesson in no uncertain tongue. Sometimes it was gentle. Sometimes it was tough love. But I promise you, you never forgot what he taught. As his son, I bring a unique perspective of Dad as a family man and a coach. I obviously never saw my daddy play. But to me, he was always the coach, and I should add head coach. He taught me life lessons I shall always cherish. I had the unique privilege of being a constant companion with my dad until I left for college. Dad coached me from the time I could walk. He taught me how to catch short hops. My mother would scream out, "Daddy, Bill, you quit doing that. You're going to kill that boy." We only had one car, so Mother drove my dad and I back and forth to school, football practice and baseball practice and fishing on the weekend. My dad was a fun guy, and he could find humor in almost any situation. He loved to fish. I remember one time Dad was teaching me how to fly fish on the Tennessee River. Anybody know how to fly fish? You know, you have to pull that line out, and it goes as far back this way as it goes that way. And of course, Dad was back there paddling. I forgot he was back there, and I hooked him in the ear. And I would not tell it all, but Dad hollered, and the censored comment was, "Chuck, you're going to have to watch your back cast because I only have 2 ears and we have to last all day." His raising was undoubtedly unique because he mixed a strong sense of right and wrong with a tender heart full of love and pride. I'll tell this little story. As a senior in high school, I thought I was hot stuff, and I got one of the game jerseys after, the football season was over, and I was going to give it to June Hale. Don't tell my wife. But I was sneaking out with it, and I passed my dad, and it was a Saturday morning, and I got the car keys, and I started out the back door, and my dad looked and said, "What's that you got, boy?" And I kind of was trying to hide it, and I said, "A jersey." And he didn't say any more. He went to the telephone and dialed up the operator and said, "Give me the police." And of course, that scared me to death. I grabbed his keys to the gym and ran out and took the jersey back. But that's the way Dad was. We didn't have any I took it back and put it in where it belonged. And that was all that was said about that. But after I taught all the other athletes, all the jerseys turned back up. Now, how much time am I going too long? Cut it off? Huh? Okay, well, we'll take a vote. Dad was playing Emma Sampson. We were playing. He was exuded the spirit of victory. I lost my place. One year we were playing Emma Sampson High School in football, and we were getting our brains beat out the first half. And Dad was a no-show in the locker room, and we had our heads between our legs and feeling real down and depressed, and we didn't hardly have anything. All of a sudden, Dad appeared right just before time to go out. He said, "Okay, boys," said they scored 13 in the first half. We can get 14. That's the second half is ours, and we went out and we beat them 14-13. But the weight of the defeat seemed to lift off every one of us players, and we won 14-13. The kind of winning spirit would not only win ball games, but also, most importantly, would translate into the life of young men who not only played for him, but also sought him out for counsel. Now, I want to give you one more short story about my dad's coaching technique. Dad came to Alabama to see me play a doubleheader against Ole Miss. And I'll be honest, I hadn't hit a loud foul on the first game. So I went over to the corner of the dugout and said, "Dad, what am I doing wrong?" He said, "Doing wrong? I'm proud of my daughter." Now, Dad majored in pre-med and dreamed of becoming a doctor like his father. But World War II came along and that interrupted everybody's dreams. But he was able to help his, the deal was Dad was going to play ball and pay for his younger brother to go through med school, which he helped out, I don't know how much. But Dr. Joe made a doctor, and he was supposed to, when he start practice, was to help Dad go through med school. But Dr. Joe died at Camp Rucker. Dad never made it to med school. However, he got a great joy in financially helping his brother's son finish med school and becoming a much-loved doctor in the Mountain Brook area. And in addition, I just want to mention this. Dr. Joe, and Betsy's here, was responsible for bringing hospice to Birmingham, Alabama. And you get my age, hospice is a wonderful, wonderful thing. So Howard has reached out, Samford has reached out in many ways beyond the baseball and football field. Now, sure, I want to applaud and rejoice in Dad's success as an icon in the sports life of Howard College, now known as Samford University. But I hope that I can help you see that without me putting too much syrup on a biscuit, this same man who performed the feats on your baseball diamonds, Rickwood Field and Legion Field football stadiums had an inner spirit that is noteworthy. Dad himself would never admit that he had a ministry laced into the threads on a baseball or into the laces of a football. However, if you knew him, you experienced him as a minister. Now, Dad did not use preacher language, and sometimes his language was such you might wonder if he'd ever seen a church. But when the smoke would clear, you would feel it in your heart that he genuinely cared for your outcome. Dad preached his sermons with his attitudes, his understanding, his compassion, and his willingness to stand with them as young people face the challenges and reality of life. Dad would give a kid a second chance if the kid was truly penitent, and believe me, Dad could tell the difference. Dad was fully involved in the world in which he lived. However, there was no doubt that the gravity of the teachings was that of Jesus Christ, who teaches us all how to live for others. Surely we rejoice in these world successes, but it's things eternal which bless us. For this we thank you, Pop, and thank you, Samford University, for recognizing my dad as one of your champions.